bonjour. This is Misschic, ASMR, and welcome to our channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you the books that I read at university. So I studied French and Spanish as an undergraduate degree, and then I did teaching English to speakers of other languages as a master's degree. Anyway, let's get into it. So the first book I've got is a Spanish grammar book called Exacto, a practical guide to Spanish grammar. So I did Spanish for complete beginners. So it was quite an intense course. You were learning it from practically nothing and having to be the same level as everyone else who had studied it for years. So we ended up having, I think, more modules of Spanish than we did for example, my other classmates who did the Spanish from A-level and sixth form and GCSE probably had less Spanish classes than we did and less hours than us. And then I did French as well, but French I had done as a child because I lived in France as a child, and I also did it as a GCSE, and then I did an A-level in French as well. So this book, it has like all of the different grammatical parts, so like nouns, articles, qualifying adjectives, personal pronouns, possessives, numerals, and it was really useful. It also had like an explanation on all of the different grammar points and example sentences and even some exercises. I can't remember if we actually did any of these exercises in university because this was on my reading list, but it wasn't one of those books that it was compulsory to get. So we didn't necessarily need to buy this book, but it was something that I found really useful for my studies. So the next book is a French dictionary. I got this during my year abroad in France. So I did my year abroad, an Erasmus year abroad in Montpellier. This is a book that I got in France, so everything is in French, including all of the meanings for each word. It would be interesting to know how much the language has changed since 2009. I'm sure there are a lot more loan words, especially to do with technology in French language, than there were more than 10 years ago. The next book I got was also from France. I can't remember what the shop was, but it was a really famous bookshop. I've got lots and lots of books from that shop because students had like a discount or something. This is a synonym book, a thesaurus in English. It's just une dictionnaire de synonymes in French. This has like the different options for each word that you can use. So for example, instead of saying this word ancien, which is ancient, you can also say vieux, old, d'époque, from the century, archaïque, archaic. So this book was really useful when I was writing my essays and doing my projects in French. So I had a lot of writing projects, especially as a student in the UK, but also in France we had some coursework as well that we had to do there, but not quite as many essays as in the UK. It will be interesting to know actually if students nowadays still read books as much as we had to read them, because back then you would call studying reading in England, but now I don't know what even if you would say you read a subject. Like for example, I would say I read French and Spanish, but I don't even know if you would say that nowadays. My university used to publish their reading list online, so you could buy the books in advance, but nowadays they don't do that unless maybe you have to actually be a student to see the reading list. So the next book I have is a easy learning French idioms book that I got for $2.99 in the UK. So this one helped me a lot with essays and things. It wasn't on my reading list, but I found it on sale, so I thought I would get it. And it did help me as well with writing essays and things to try and make my language sound more soutenu, more French, more elevated. It's also organized into topics and things as well. For example, there's one on argument, conflict and cooperation, love, affection, marriage and friendship. Let's look at that. Number 62, avoir le cœur sur la main. To have your heart on your hand, or to have a heart of gold. Être dans les petits papiers de quelqu'un. To be in everybody's small papers, literally. Or the English idiom would be to be in somebody's good books. I also have a book on Spanish idioms as well. So this is a book with Spanish idioms. It was also only $2.99. I think I got them probably at the same time from the same shop. And this one is a lot like the French one, but with idioms in Spanish. I think I actually got this probably in my final year at university. As you can see, it's quite new. I haven't really used it much. But it definitely helped in my final year with like trying to elevate my level of Spanish and French and make my essays and writing sound more native. Let's look at Hope, Dreams, Fear and Anxiety. Page 32. Esperar algo como agua de mayo. To hope for something like rain in May. Or, quite literally, to eagerly wait for something. Mi sueño dorado. My golden dream. Or my dream. So, for example, something you really want in Spanish isn't merely a dream, it's a golden dream. El Mundial es el sueño dorado de muchos futbolistas. The World Cup is many footballers' dream. So I think I'll be keeping this book. Maybe I should do a video reading out some idioms from this book. Let me know if you would like a video with something like that. The next book I have is another French grammar book. This is La Nouvelle Grammaire du Français. I think I got this in France. It's similar to the other Spanish book that I have, but with all of the explanations and the grammar points written in French, the native language, rather than in English. So this is quite useful as well, because it explains everything in the language that you're learning, so it will help you learn the language even more. So again, it's got all of the different grammar points, pronouns, tenses, adjectives. It also had like example sentences showing you how to use the different grammar points. So I use this a lot, especially while I was living in France, and probably in my second and third year of studying French at university. It's quite a heavy book, So most likely I didn't take it to uni with me and just kept it in my home. So when I was a student, we didn't bring our laptops to university. I don't think I had a laptop until my second or final year. I know that nowadays students tend to make all of their notes on laptops, I think, and tablets. I don't think anyone brought a laptop or a tablet to study with in their master's degree. We were all writing notes on like these sort of refill pads. So the next book I got is another thesaurus, but for Spanish this time. Un diccionario de sinónimos y antónimos. I don't think the other one for French had antonyms, it just had synonyms. I got this while I was living in Spain. It doesn't seem very well used, but I'm sure I would have used it for like my translation courses in my undergrad, and also for writing essays and things. Again, to sort of elevate my level of Spanish. So in the first year, it was just all about learning the language. The second year was also more about learning. Third year, you were in your year abroad, trying to learn more of the language, but with native speakers. And then in your fourth year, you were expected to be the same level as everyone else and using more elevated Spanish. So books like this would have come in really useful to try and make myself sound more like a native when I write and speak. The next book is going to show my age because it's got a CD in the back. I think I used this in my second year at university. So this one's called El Curso de Español para Extranjeros, intermediate, a course of Spanish, a Spanish course for foreigners. As you can see, it's quite well used. You can see my pencil marks and stuff. It's probably going to be quite outdated, maybe. So to show you sort of just how outdated this book is, can you see here it's got a photo of a cassette player with headphones. I mean, we were sort of expected to use this CD to listen to the different voice clips and audios and do exercises with them. I remember this module as well on discovering Spain and Latin America, and there were several pages on this. I did get a request before to make a video talking about the different words that they use in Latin America and Spain, so maybe there are some examples here that I can try and find. So this is the exercise book that went along with it. As you can see, it's quite well used. So yes, we had to do these exercises for university. It seems like I didn't do all of them though, so maybe the teacher would only set a few pages or certain exercises for us to do. This is B2 level Spanish, B2 plus. It's very similar to the other book I just showed you. It has different topics and things, lots of photos, lots of exercises. It has something about using the internet. Explícale a tu compañero lo que crees que tiene que hacer para organizar un viaje por internet. So explain to a colleague or your partner what you think you need to do to organize a trip on the internet. So here it's got like step-by-step instructions on what to do when you're on the internet. So entrar en un buscador, go on a website, a search engine, localizar páginas web de agencias de viajes o de compañías de vuelo de bajo coste. So go on a web page for agencies for flights or companies that offer low-cost flights. Buscar ofertas interesantes. Look for interesting offers, discounts. Escribir un correo a la agencia. It's probably something you wouldn't do nowadays. Write an email to the agency. Esperar la respuesta. Wait for the answer. Comprar un billete de vuelo barato. Buy a ticket for a cheap flight. Comprobar los servicios que ofrecen. So compare the different services that they offer. Contactar con hoteles que tengan reserva online. Contact hotels which allow you to reserve rooms online. Hacer una reserva. Make an offer or reserve the room. Leer bien las condiciones. So read the conditions well. If you do use a book like this for studying French and Spanish, I would like to know what kind of topics you have in the books nowadays. Are they things like how to book trips online using websites? Come to think of it, I think for my French language and grammar course at university, because I had already studied French at sixth form and GCSE, I don't actually remember using any books like this. I think our lectures were a bit more old-fashioned. They were just our teacher, our lecturer, reading something and giving us paper exercises. I don't ever remember having a book like this to learn French. I think we were already expected to know how to express ourselves and how to speak about different topics from GCSE and A-level in French. So next book is a Spanish verb book. So I remember bringing this every day with me to university as well for my Spanish grammar classes. It has like all of the different verbs in the Spanish language and how to use them in the different tenses, like for example the past conditional, preterite tense, subjunctive tense. And it also has lovely verb tables. I remember having to learn some of the verb tables for French and Spanish. I might make an interesting video reading these. Probably will make you fall asleep. Let me know if you would like a video like that. And the next book I got here is also something that I brought every day with me to my French classes. This is the French version of this book. It's the French verb pack. It's got all of the different verbs and the different conjugations for each tense, like the present tense, past historic for literature, conditional, present subjunctive, imperfect subjunctive, common verbs that follow the same pattern, very handy, how the verb works, and some example sentences, the language in use. For example, joindre, to join. Present tense, je joins, tu joins, il, elle joint, nous joignons, vous joignez, il, elle joint. This is very well used, as you can see. The next book I have, I actually got in sixth form, but it's something that I brought with me every day to university as well. This one's mot à mot. It's a new advanced French vocabulary, so it went through like different topics and things, and it had different example sentences that you could use per topic. For example, la vie urbaine et rurale. So urban life and rural life, all of the vocab that you can use to describe and talk about these topics. For example, les activités culturelles et sportives, cultural and sporting activities, la campagne, countryside, la chasse, hunting, chasser, to hunt, l'ambiance, mood, atmosphere, le bouchon, bottleneck or traffic jam. I found it really useful for essays and just French speaking projects and basically all of my French classes. The next book is another French grammar book. I don't know why I have so many French grammar books. I think I got this one again when I was living in France. Maybe it was one of the books in our reading list there. But I remember doing a course on French grammar when I was there. It was very in-depth. It wasn't about using the language. It was more about why certain grammar points are used that way, the reason for those grammar points. I found this course very, very difficult. So here I've got a Spanish dictionary. This is also by Collins, like the idiom book. Compact edition in colour. This one I just brought in my rucksack to university every day. Because yeah, we didn't use the internet and I didn't have a smartphone until probably after my master's degree. You can see it's quite well used. I probably also brought it with me to Spain when I lived there as a uni student in Granada. So I did an Erasmus year abroad in Granada University. 6 months after I finished my Erasmus year abroad in France. The next book that I have was something that I used for my master's degree, English for Specific Purposes. So I did a course for my master's on teaching English to speakers of other languages, or TESOL for short. And this one has, for example, different approaches to teaching, the challenges of teaching certain topics like structural linguistics, and it also suggested different syllabuses and things that you could use for English teachers. This is another book that I got for my master's degree, How Languages Are Learned. So I remember using this for one of my essays. I probably use it a lot and also use it for my dissertation. It's a big pencil line down the side. I probably found the whole page interesting. Got quite a few bits highlighted here in pencil. This is a very nice book though. I like the colours. And then here I've got another book that I used for my master's degree. It's a comprehensive guide to spoken and written English grammar and usage. So it's something that you would need to learn if you were learning to teach English. But yeah, it has like all of the different explanations on why you would use certain grammar points and example sentences. For example, on the pronoun all can be used as an unmodified pronoun, but such usage is formal and infrequent. All are welcome, all were concerned that something should be done. More typically, everyone was concerned. And it's very in-depth. I mean, here it goes through different points like in spoken language, like in written language. But I found this really useful, especially for teaching Spanish students English grammar. So when I was a teacher, I worked in Spain and I mainly taught things like listening, speaking, but not really reading and grammar and writing. They were mainly for the native Spanish speakers to teach, just because it was easier for them to explain some grammar points using Spanish. But because I can speak Spanish, and also because I did this course on teaching English to speakers of other languages, my manager, the head teacher, she kind of expected me to also be able to teach English grammar. But it was quite difficult, especially trying to explain it to teenagers and some adult students as well. Then I have another book that I used for my master's degree, Rediscover Grammar by David Crystal. It was very similar to this book, but was probably something that I brought with me to class, and it taught you how to use the different aspects of the English grammar language, such as verb aspects, future time, modal meanings, nouns, common and proper nouns. Gave different examples as well. Plain English. Never use the passive where you can use the active. Yeah. I don't really remember much about this book, but I do remember bringing it with me. And then I have another book here that I used for my Teaching English course. Teaching English as a Foreign Language. This was on our reading list. This had all of the different methods for teaching English. It even has a bookmark. So I probably bought this book in Waterstones, which is a bookshop in the UK. But yeah, it had different like English teaching techniques and things. Has something about being a student, being a teacher, classroom management and manner, teaching grammar via situational presentation, teaching grammar via text or recording, teaching grammar via teach, test, teaching vocab, checking understanding of meaning, pronunciation, practice activities, teaching one-to-one, testing students. I mean, the tips in this book were things like watching TV and watching films, listening to the radio, reading newspapers. I'm sure nowadays the teaching will probably include using the internet, avoiding AI, that kind of thing. It will be interesting to know actually if there's a new version of this book and what other things they would include in teaching, like other methods. I wonder actually, because we were all about the collaborative learning experience, but I wonder what it is now. Is it still about collaborative learning, or is there another teaching method that we didn't learn about back then? The final book that I have was something also that I used for my master's degree. Also has a DVD, so that shows how long ago it was that I did my master's. This book was also really useful. It had like different tips and tricks and techniques on how to teach the different aspects of the English language. For example, using technology. Probably again outdated now, because I guess now AI is quite a big part of language learning, and also computer assisted language learning, which is what I wrote my dissertation about, has probably moved on quite a lot in the last 10 years. This one has, for example, creating a positive learning atmosphere. So I know that collaborative teaching is quite a big thing nowadays. Giving feedback, showing respect, letting people do the talking, rather than sort of the lecturer being in front and teaching everyone, which is the way that I was learning when I was a university student. I know that nowadays it's more about collaborative learning and doing group projects and working together to figure out a problem, which is something that I tried to implement when I was an English teacher in Spain. Out of curiosity, let's have a look at the page on technology. Let's see what the technology was like for teaching English 10 years ago. You had things like interactive whiteboards, the internet, which we still use nowadays, research tools like Search Engine, Corpora, PowerPoint and other presentation software, free or cheap software, tablet computers and notebooks, netbooks it says here, iPods, music and podcast players, shared learning and social media such as wikis, blogs, Twitter, Facebook, virtual learning environments, VLEs like Moodle, and virtual worlds. We use a virtual learning environment, VLE, at university, but it was mainly just to hand our essays in. And I think in my master's degree, we probably had our lecture notes uploaded there too, so we could easily download them. But yeah, that's all for our video today. I hope that you found the book tapping relaxing and the book sounds. I would be interested to know if you also studied French and Spanish at university and teaching English. And did you read these books? Are you reading these books? And if you're a student nowadays, do you also have to read loads of books like we did? And do you actually bring your books to class? Or do you just leave them at home? And like, how do you study nowadays? I'd be really interested to know. Anyway, I hope that you found this video relaxing. Please press on like, leave a comment and subscribe, especially if you did, no pressure. And I will see you in our next video. Good night, good night, good night.